Hello, everyone. Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to Courageous Custody, your weekly dose of empowerment and practical guidance. I'm Renee Rodriguez, the creator of the Custody Blueprint.
And I'm Atra Tarfa, a level 3 IFS trained practitioner. You know, Renee and I are here again in this new year.
Yay!
Because we still understand the unique challenges protective parents face in the courtroom. And our mission is to equip you with strategic thinking and emotional support that you need to navigate this difficult journey with strength and resilience.
So every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to go live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, bringing you inspiration and insight from stories about courageous parents who have walked in your shoes and emerged victorious in big ways and small, and practical strategies from us to help you advocate for your children and manage your trauma as you go through your custody case. So for the first time in 2025, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
A reminder that we are not giving legal advice or therapy.
Yes, and if you are feeling triggered in any way, we want you to take care of yourself. So go ahead and step away from the episode and come back and maybe join us in the comments.
So today's topic, as we do continue to talk about tech and court, is how to use text messages as evidence in your custody case. Text messages are increasingly common as evidence in custody cases, and you know, they can provide a real-time snapshot of communication, parenting decisions, and behaviors. We want to talk about how to use them effectively. I think, you know, admissibility, as we always talk about, is key. You know, in our last episode, the last one of the year in 2024, we talked about how do you figure out what's relevant to the court. Everything, all the crappy stuff that your ex is doing is valid, but what does the court care about? What's relevant to them according to the law, right? And then authenticity is huge. A lot of times people will take screenshots of text messages and we'll see sort of the time stamp, but we won't see a date stamp. And that makes authenticity sort of very difficult. And your text messages may be rejected because you're not really getting all of the information in that screenshot. And, you know, with the authenticity, that includes, you know, if you're getting phone records or testimony, the metadata behind these things is going to be crucial if tech forensics become involved. But a lot of times people will get these text messages, like, we're a big fan of people getting those records from, you know, from Verizon, AT&T, Metro, whatever people are using, or Mint Mobile, a particular favorite of mine, where people are basically having to call them to get what they need. You know, much like email, text messages can be just considered, they can fall as hearsay instead of, you know, evidence. And so again, it's really important that you're not just including a bunch of stuff that you're stating happened without any real confirmation from the other side, right? And saying, you know, you were late, I can't believe it. And hearing no answer from them means that you have zero evidence that they were late, at least not over text message, right? The text message is not going to prove anything for you. And then, of course, with all evidence, you want to have originals, or, you know, your copies need to be reliable. You need to have screenshots. You don't want to edit or alter the text message itself. Although, you know, when we're working with clients, one of the things I want to talk about is how to gather, you know, and really, really present the evidence, which is to say that it needs to be clear to us. So outside of the image itself, sometimes on the page, we might put, you know, the gray is my ex, and, you know, the blue or green is me, or whatever it might be. So when you're taking these screenshots, make sure you've got the date or time stamps. When you are getting phone records, it used to be that things like Verizon, you know, or Mint or whoever would allow you to have a transcript, really, of all of your phone records between this phone number and this one. So in this case, let's say that you're doing it with your ex, it would be between your phone number and your ex's phone number. Then they would basically mail you out or send you the digital file for a transcript for it, right? So that basically you can see everything and it doesn't look like text messages. It looks like a transcript. It's got date and time stamps and you can see the text. And obviously, I really prefer that for evidence. It helps take away some of the emotional feel of it. For example, we have a lot of protective parents who are kind of like, well, we don't use email. He only uses text. And so I have to text him. But of course, I'm going to use the, brief, friendly format formula, and it'll look like an email, but over text. That helps a lot. But the biggest problem with text messages is that pretty much no matter what you write, it has a layer of emotion to it. And so anything, even when you are, practicing, boundaries, even when you're asking them to stop doing something in a very lovely way, it's going to have an emotional feel on it. And the thing of it is that the females are definitely seen as emotional already. So you sort of have a double whammy at you if you're a female, if you're a mom trying to use text messages in that way. The transcripts that you're getting tend to take a little bit of that away. It takes a layer of that away, but it's texting and everybody knows that it's back and forth. And so everybody sees it as emotional speak, and it's very hard to come out looking great with text messages. One of the things you'll walk away from today's episode is that I'm not a big fan of using text messages. But if they're already existent, we use them like crazy. But I always tend to move my parents off of texting and onto email so that their evidence just seems more valid, just so that you look better when you're speaking to your co-parent.
And just to add in, and it adds a layer of a pause.
It does.
Right? It adds a layer of a pause. Text messaging is just so immediate. It can be there, the read, the not read, the leaving me unread, and it could just add so much unnecessary chaos and emotion. It can, and it does. And so I think, having that filter, an added, pause that emails and the other communication platforms can do is really what is really needed and helpful to protective parents in these situations.
Yeah, the text messages create this false sort of, read between the lines commentary just based on off of these, all of these little notifications, these little identifiers, as you were saying, read, unread. And, I've had protective parents argue with me that, well, I didn't answer them until the next day, but it's kind of like it's over text message. It just looks emotional, right? Mm-hmm. So then, just like most of our tech evidence, when you're introducing it in court, we've got to know the who and the what. And when I go to family law conferences and meetings, and anyone, whether it's judges, usually lawyers, who start talking about text messages, they feel frustrated too, you guys. They basically are like, I don't know what to do this. I've listened to evaluators say, man, do I hate text messages because it is not clear. When you get these screenshots, it's not clear. And even if you get the transcripts, you still have to spell things out. What we like to recommend, what we work with our clients on, is that, again, as I was saying, when you have nothing but screenshots of let's say you're only using 3 or 4 different text threads, it's very important that you capture the conversation from start to finish. So many text conversations happen within, a few minutes to a few hours, but there are those that, sort of go through a few days. The more that you're texting your ex about other things while that one topic is going on, the more the court is going to see. So it's not great. So if you're talking about, hey, who's going to take our child to their first day of school, right? It's not clear in the parenting schedule, and there's a little bit of a fight over it that goes over 3 days. We're also getting all of the other fights as well. And so it makes you look contentious, but you need to get it from the start of that thread, and you have to go all the way down. You can't be cutting or editing or taking out the stuff that is not relevant to the first day of school thread. It's all there. Another problem with text messages, right? The other thing is, I don't know who's who. As I mentioned, when people place these screenshots on a page, they tend to digitally, or if they have to, they, print it out and write on it with an arrow. This one is me, this one is dad, and then a little paragraph of this is Ari, first day of school, of March and, September 2019, whatever. Right. So let's make it clear on that printout, on that digital print itself, as to that digital copy, as to what it is that they're seeing, because that's their biggest frustration, is they don't know what they're looking at. Right. So you'll definitely want all of that context there. And then, once you've got something onto, let's say you take a screenshot and you put it into something like a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc, you can then turn that thing together into a PDF, which I do recommend. And then you can take Adobe's highlighter, for example, or a PDF highlighter, and you can highlight the key phrases, the key messages that you want to point out beyond the fact that this is him and this is me and we're talking about this. But you can highlight, where he called you a name. You can highlight where he threatened custody. You can highlight those things, right? And then, as always with any tech evidence, you just have to be ready for them to try to throw it out or say it's not authentic or whatever. But, I think it's just really, really important, again, as always, as with everything, that, protective parents, no matter what their ex is throwing at them, appear to be collaborative, really appear to do their best to cooperate, to say as little as possible, and to not show emotion, and to just basically be respectful. And of course, relevant texts are going to be anything, the usual stuff. Is it about custody? Is it about childcare, financial support, communication problems, hostility, threats, harassment, anything like that? And it's really myriad, and it depends on what your case is about and what categories you've decided to use for your case.
Yeah, it's so interesting. As we're sitting here talking about this, I'm just remembering a client of ours and how the urge to want to fight, within yourself, that wanting to respond now, like I want to address this now.
Yeah.
And fix this now. And I think you have said this, but I have said this too. Like, just because it's written doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
And that whole topic of, provocation, right? That is easier said than done, to hold that professional tone due to provocation.
Oh, but there's also responding too quickly. When they say, how come you're not responding? I'm going to show the court that you're not responding. And the abuser will use a tone or threatening words like that. And unfortunately, a protective parent does get scared that they don't look collaborative and do believe that they need to respond right away. And I'm always a fan of get back to them 24 to 48 hours later, unless it has to do with something that happens.
Unless it's an emergency. But the thing is, everything seems like an emergency.
For them, it's control.
For them, it's control. Yeah. And so they make it seem like everything's an emergency, and having that space, like you said, which is why we don't encourage them to use text messages.
Get off of the text messages. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, from a trauma lens, just really being careful about preserving and presenting the text messages so that, like you said, there's a clear picture. There's, the evidence is followed all the way through. It's not just screenshot, that the metadata is there so that the original context is there. And it really boils down to reactivity in regards to the text tone. Because even in the tone, you can't hear the tone, right, in text messages, unless there's, all caps or exclamation points or things of that nature. But even when it's just sort of like just average language, right? What we do as protective parents, right? What protective parents do is there's a story that can also be created. Mm. And when we start to sort of let that story ride off and we go down with that story, then it's a lot harder to sort of reel it in and stop that impulse of wanting to respond in a text message right away. So noticing what comes up, because that can, again, like I've said before in our last episode about adding to being misunderstood, that can lead to then being criticized, and it being weaponized, right, against the protective parent. So pausing and noticing, again, which parts are activated when the text is read or received. And when we sit there and we take that time to pause and calm those parts, we can respond in a way that reflects just sort of a self-led place, a place that is, hey, I'm looking out for our kid, and I'm going to, even if it's just hey, I'm going to actually respond to you in an email. So make sure you check that later. If that's something, right? Or respond. I saw that your text came through and I'm really wanting us to communicate there. I'm wondering what you have to say about that, Renee, because do they respond at all and say, hey, I'm redirecting? Or, what do you think about not responding at all? Like, I think that it's best. This is just me. You're the strategist. I think for a trauma lens, to help those parts that really want to respond, to really just let them say, hey, I got your text. I'm going to go ahead and respond over here on OFW as the court order, or something along those lines. Or is it just best to just not, and then just do it anyways, respond in the OFW so that can be done? Because I notice clients have parts that feel like that fear that you were talking about, of looking uncooperative.
I think it depends on the case. For the most part, generally speaking, I'm going to say that you're going to look as much as possible to not respond. If someone has, unfortunately, a guardian ad litem or a judge who doesn't understand how much messaging and communication is used as control and abuse, and they've put something, in writing that says you must respond within 24 hours, you must respond within 72 hours, then I think that there needs to be a response, but then the response itself needs to be something that kind of puts an end to it, right? Something
Right.
along the lines of, okay, or great, thanks, or, something where this is it. Abusers will want to re-engage. They'll say, is that all you have to say, or whatever, because they desperately, remember, this is narcissistic supply. Communication is narcissistic. There's a reason that no contact is what is recommended with a cluster B disordered individual. It is because you should cut off all ties and move on. What we're talking about is, but we've got children together and we've got the family court. We're under the microscope here. And so, unfortunately, there does need to be a strategic playing nice.
There does. It does. And like you said, it is case by case. So anytime there's an engagement with the other party, as long as there's a sense of clarity, neutrality, respect, that makes, for the introduction of how to use text messages as presenting evidence in the court, like that helps make it stronger, right? That helps make your case stronger. It's putting evidence out there that actually helps to reduce tension and ongoing communication as well, because you're not going, although the abuser will try, you're not going to be seen as the parent that is sort of engaging in that back and forth. And because that doesn't ever, I've never seen where that looks good, where that works in the favor.
No, so part of when we have, so when we have protective parents who are working with the custody blueprint with us, part of their training really for court is what should communication look like. And we have a rule where in any thread, in any message, in any email thread or, and text, as you know, I just want people off of it, but in any thread, there should be 3 messages total for anything except a negotiation, for which there should be 5 messages total. And if you still haven't figured it out, you're going to have to move to your lawyer. And I'm always a fan of trying to start negotiations so that you can show that you tried. But, if they say something like, hey, can you remember to send over, Susie's soccer uniform, then your response should be, yep, it's already in the bag. And that's it. And are they going to respond and say thanks or something like that? Sure. Or yeah, because last time you didn't do it or whatever. Sure. Because they have to have the last word. fine. You don't have to respond. You have to keep it going on. It is 3. It's like really 2 is better. If somebody asks for something, somebody responds yes or no, and you move on. With negotiations, it's 5. Obviously prefer email, but if we're talking text, if after together, you don't each get 5 texts, 5 emails. If together you guys are now getting to the point where 5 emails hasn't solved it, it's time to get your lawyer involved. And as much as I'm a fan of saving on legal fees, if you're not making progress in 5 emails, if you're just going back and forth over the same thing, you're going to start to look bad too. 5 text messages, 5 emails about which insurance to use, and you're both just digging your heels in. Guess what? You're creating great evidence against yourself, and the court wants desperately to see both parents as the problem so that they can just say 50-50, we're done, next.
Yeah.
That's desperately what they want. And if you're going to contribute with keeping those text threads long about something, you are helping the court feel very good about 50-50 being where they land.
I love that you're saying this, because giving our audience, giving our clients, giving protective parents a framework to operate in this text, because it's difficult sometimes to just kind of go cold turkey on the text message. And I want to acknowledge that, right? So understand and acknowledge the parts inside that are feeling hurt or overwhelmed. And one of the ways in which support can be offered to these parts that want to respond now, that want to look cooperative now, that are hurt, that are, all these things, is to say, you know what, we're going to only do this 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to move to this. And if that doesn't work, we're going to. So really just sort of having an internal negotiation, an internal sense of comfort. Okay, this is what I'm doing for this long. And then that's it. And setting a boundary. That's really helpful for us internally, because we have a plan. We have our manager parts that love to have plans. And so, cold turkey, if it can't be done, got it. Let's then try this, and let's work within this framework, because it's really helpful. It's what we're helping. I'm getting tongue tied. What we're working towards, right? What we're working towards is taking this sort of sense of this emotional trauma that's going on in their lives, right? Mm-hmm. And helping them to apply some calm and some advocacy in a way that is strategically successful and may not relieve the pain of the emotion that's happening, but at least it may add to an outcome that they want, or a more desired outcome than, as you said, what the court's outcome is typically, which is everybody's to blame and it's just 50-50, which we know is not the greatest.
That's the approach they want. Yeah. And look, I mean, don't get me wrong. We're sitting here saying get off of text, and really what we're talking about is using text as evidence. But
yes,
quick thing I would say is, because I see, we get comments like this all the time, is my ex refuses to talk anyway. He doesn't have an email address.
Right.
And it's like, first off, I think most of these parents can call BS on the other parent. Not always, though. And so the first place I would say is, how do I get my ex off of text and onto email, which is very much sort of like, you come up with a reason that works. And usually what we say is, look, I'm getting right now, like we used to have a different reason. And now we can so easily say, I'm missing all kinds of people's text messages because the amount of text ads I'm getting makes it so that I'm not even checking as much anymore. And I realize that I'm going to go back to good old fashioned email about things that are important anyway. And I consider our co-parenting relationship important. So I'm going to email you from now on. I know you get that on your phone too. Don't give them excuses. Be all like, I know you get that on your phone as well as your text messages. So just so you know, I'm just going to, I got to keep better track of things. And email, I'm always on email, but with text messages, I can't be on anymore. It's just a bunch of ads and notifications. So we're leaning into that now. We are, because I don't know about you, but every time I think I got a text that I've been waiting for, it's like 20% off of something. And so we lean in. I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's true.
So lean into that. That's our new reality. And so it's get off of text, but I know we're talking about text as evidence, but I can't ever stop saying get off of text though. But yes, when you're using it as evidence, the things that we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, that's what it, and all these tips, hopefully our audience, hopefully you all out there listening will be able to use this in the new year moving forward. If this is not something that you're doing currently,
Yeah.
this is something, it can be a resolution that you're applying or an
Yes.
intention that you're applying in the new year.
With the big resolution being to make 2025 yours.
Yes to that.
Make
Yes to that.
2025 yours. Do we have more to say on this?
No,
Or I mean, there's so much to say, but I think that is all for this week's episode of Courageous Custodia. Before we go, thank you so much for joining us, whether live or in replay. We're so grateful to have helped in any way we may have. We have a lot of great takeaways this week. One is get off of text.
Get off of text.
Get off of text, but really, make sure that what you've got is admissible and that you are presenting it really in the right way and preserving metadata.
Yeah. And make sure that whatever text that you are submitting is the whole thing and it's, relevant to what's actually going on. Relevant. And if you are responding in text form, which again, get off of text, but if you are responding in text form, that it's helpful to lead from a place of self-energy because it's going to help you successfully and strategically in your case. Yeah. So next week, join us again, 7 p.m. Eastern. Like or follow us so that you can get the notifications and not miss anything because what we're talking about might just catch you right when you need it.
And leave your own comments below. Wherever you're listening, remember, you are not alone. Until next week, stay strong, stay informed, and keep fighting for what matters most. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Happy New Year again.